Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. We are having a look at the German Rank 7 Premium for the next major update on the dev server right now, and it is the MiG-21 Lazur-M. Now, in all intents and purposes, this is a direct copy of the one which is in the tech tree, the MiG-21 Bissau. The Lazur-M system is kind of I suppose it's an interceptor system is probably the easiest way of describing it. Pretty much it's designed so from the ground it can contact the plane and it can tell the plane where to go so it can intercept the targets. That's pretty much how the system works. So in War Thunder it's completely useless, but it gives Gaijin an opportunity to basically make a copy-paste premium. So that's the thing at the end of the day. Everything else about it, when it comes to it, is exactly the same as the Bissau. It has the R25-300 engine, it has 6 missiles that it can carry, it has all of the CCIPs for the cannons and the rockets, and also has access to the Sapphire 21 radar, which is probably not one of the better radars. It doesn't have a lot of modes to it, and also at the same time it doesn't really have a good kind of arc to it, but at the same time, you know, it can still be useful if you want to use some of the semi-actives that this has. So because it's pretty much just a MiG-21 Bis, it has all the standard missiles. You got the R3Rs if you want to do some semi-active work. These aren't very good missiles, but I suppose if you want to bring 2, you can do if you want to catch an enemy out. But the radar's not really good enough to do it, so not really much of a point. Or you can bring R13M1s, which are pretty cool. You know, they've got a decent lock and rear aspects. They've got a very long missile guidance time, nearly as long as AIM-9Ls. And also, you know, their maximum overload isn't, you know, the best compared to other things, but good enough and a good launch range. Or you can just bring the R60MKs, which are of course the all-aspect R60s, and just rail people as you go around and just annihilate them. So you can bring 6 of these bad boys and you can do tons of damage with them. This thing does have the custom loadout stuff, so you can set them up if you want to, and you will probably, mass majority of the time, just bring the 6 R60MKs. There's not really much point in doing anything else. You do have some bombs. There are also the S-24 rockets, the big boomers. You also have the incendiaries and some smaller bombs, and of course the S5Ks in tow as well. So if you want to do some ground pounding, you can, but this is not a vehicle which is really set up for ground pounding. It does have countermeasures, which is nice. Has access to 64 of them, which is completely enough to be useful in the vehicle itself. You can see the pods which are actually set up here on the vehicle showing the countermeasures, and in general, you know, it's going to have a pretty decent time in that. The MiG-21 Bis as a vehicle isn't top dog anymore. By the way, this does actually have a camo on it as well, which is pretty nice. You've got obviously the tricolor, and then you've got the standard, more, I suppose, Soviet camo, it would be called, just like the silver one with the good old GDR markings. But the vehicle itself, like, it used to be top dog. It used to be a vehicle that was very strong and, you know, kind of took over the game for a few patches. And then what ended up started to happen was, of course, some other vehicles came in and kind of gave it a run for its money. Stuff such as, of course, vehicles like the F5E, for example. Then the F14 came in. Then the MiG-23s came in. Then the F4J was around. You know, then you had, of course, the other vehicles such as the British Phantoms, which were really good. The F4EJ Kai, which was also good. And there was just a bunch of them which generally had just a great time playing. And this one, the MiG-21 Bis, can still hold its own, especially now that they've given it even better missiles than before. And also it does have a pretty nice cockpit at the same time, which is good to see. So there's at least that. It can still, like, hold its own. Like, it can still do really well. It does have the air brake, of course, and then, as we talked about, the wonderful countermeasures which flip away from it. I always like how they look, but generally it can still do well. It's not a vehicle which is gonna like fall apart, or it's always going to be good enough because of the amount of missiles it has and also the type it has. It's got good straight line speed, which is very useful, and also it has, you know, the decent missiles on top of it. I don't really like the gun. I think it's one of the weakest at high tier. The actual machine itself, like the MiG-21, it does have okay, decent like maneuverability, but I feel like whenever I see people play it, or when I play it, there's like 1 or 2 good turns, and then if you're not in a position to like kind of go away, then you're just gonna kind of get bonked, unfortunately, and it's not gonna go as well for you. You can see how long the lock range is on these things, by the way, in rear aspect. It's kind of nuts. But you have the speed to be able to kind of reset an engagement most of the time. Maybe not against the top dogs anymore, but close enough. And I would say it's a pretty decent premium, but it has been at least confirmed on the forums that Germany will get a Tornado, which would be nice. And this will be something to use to like kind of grind to it. Is this like the best Timmy's versus premium? Probably not. Like the Soviet one's probably better, if we're being honest, because it's a MiG-23. You know, it has access to a few more countermeasures, has access to a few other things, and also very good flight performance. But at the same time, it's not like this is like a slouch. Like it's still an incredibly good vehicle, and I've had just fantastic times and stuff, which is, you know, stuff such as the good old MiG-21 SMT is probably one of my favorite top tier vehicles. And this vehicle, the good old basic Bissau, which is what it is also just a fantastic vehicle in general. Like it works fantastically well. There's nothing to really say bad about it, apart from the fact that it has been power crept a little bit, I suppose. But at the same time, it can still do work, its missiles are still good, and it can still follow like the combat opportunities, which are kind of put it in front of you. It'll always do alright, and that's the main thing for it. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd like to thank Forge, Siegebreak, Carrion Crow, Nicholas Richardson, Elove Goat, Pyman, Winter Scientist, Merciless Reaper, Orange Tail, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Moxie, B. Young, and also Sem Arslan, Wilkski, Uncle Bean, Derek R., Bareen, Lafouche, and Samuel Slick for supporting the channel.